Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about permanent residency travel document one more time for those that have not been residing in Canada for a very long time. It could be any amount of time. It could be about 2 years, 3 years, or it could be 20 years. And that for those that have been trying to come to Canada quite desperately now. So what are the options that we have on the table? How to approach those solutions? What exactly is a PRTD? What to do, what not to do? Or should you directly go for an appeal to the Federal Court of Canada with the help of an immigration lawyer, or you think a PRTD is as good, application of a PRTD is as good. So that's the topic of the video. I'm Niladri Mukherjee. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I practice in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. So a little bit of background if you're not aware of it. Let's say you came to Canada in 1995. It could be 2000 as well. It doesn't really matter. Because of your circumstances, you did not abide by the residency obligation, and you had to leave Canada, and you have not got an opportunity to come back to Canada. So as a result, your PR card has expired while you're outside Canada. So this is the situation that we're dealing with. If you have watched my previous videos, you know that there are two options that we can potentially work on. One is that you can have like a United States visa, US visa. You come to the US-Canada border and try to convince an officer to restore your permanent residency status. For that, there are obviously a couple of obligations, difficulties. First is that you have to have a US visa. Secondly, you have to first go to the US, and what if you're not allowed to enter into Canada? Then you'll be went back again to the US and to your home country. Expenses involved. You have to have a lawyer or a consultant maybe to accompany you at the border. That's an expense as well. And what if nothing works out, then all your expenses are going for a toss, right? So this is an expensive affair. Other sort of workable option that we have discussed in the past is called the permanent residency travel document. So this is what that we are going to focus here in a detail, so you understand what it is and how should you go for it, or whether should you go for a PRTD, which is a permanent residency travel document, or you directly go to the Federal Court of Canada to appeal the decision if your application for PRTD was refused. So a lot of times when clients come for consultations, they tell me that, well, I have also consulted a couple of Canadian immigration lawyers. They say that if you apply for a PRTD at this point in time, the PRTD will be refused anyway. So let's not spend a lot of time and effort and money and everything on PRTD. Let's just make an application for a PRTD, just see how it goes, because you know what, you can go to the Federal Court of Canada, and there your possibility of success will be very, very high. Unfortunately, with due regard to all of their education and experience, that's probably not the right advice. A permanent residency travel document, now this is what my experience tells me, that permanent residency travel document is not only for those that are waiting for their PR cards, or that do not have their PR cards with them, or have just applied for a PR card and are willing to come back. Permanent residency travel documents are also for those that have not been residing in Canada for a very long time, and as a result of that fact, their PR card has expired, not the PR status, their PR card has expired. And what if they want to come back to Canada? They have to apply for a travel document, which in this case is called a permanent residency travel document. But this is not just a simple application as if you make an online application, pay like $50 per candidate fee and wait for a decision. It has to be a strong legal application. You have to prove that because of your specific circumstances, which is obviously unique to you, you were not able to live in Canada. Have to explain those chain of events in a logical, methodical way for immigration to understand. Why did you have to leave Canada in the first place? What are the reasons which have forced you to remain outside Canada for these many months and years? How do you want to come to Canada now? Why do you want to come to Canada now? What kind of establishment you have had while you are in Canada? What kind of establishment you have had while you are outside Canada? What kind of establishment you want to have after you come back to Canada, provided obviously you have given an opportunity. All these things need to be properly explained. You have to talk about the stress, the distress your family was facing or will face if your application for this permanent residency travel document is not approved. Last but not the least, that I do not see many emphasis from many of the applications that I review every single day, is the best interest of the child. You cannot forget that we are a law of precedents. This country is a law of precedents, and anybody that is dealing with Canadian immigration law and the immigration regulation understands and gives value to Baker versus Canada, that gives tremendous importance to the best interest of the child directly impacted by the decision. So if you had a child who was born in Canada, so if you have a Canadian born child, or if your child had accompanied you to Canada and then had to leave because of your circumstances, that's not the fault of your child. So a child cannot just come back to Canada being a minor just like that. You have to accompany him. So the best interest of the child, how the best interest of the child is being impacted should your permanent residency travel document application was ignored, have all to be justified, have all to be given reasoning and explained for immigration to understand, to come to a conclusion. So the point is, you should not just put together a PRTD application for the sake of it, thinking that, well, if this application is refused, I will then go to the Federal Court of Canada, because as a permanent resident, I have an appeal right as well. Do not forget, as I have mentioned in the previous video as well, the loss of your or the expiry of your permanent residency card does not mean that your permanent residency status has expired. In other words, if you have your driving license which is expired, that really does not mean that you have forgotten how to drive. The same analogy, the same principle here. You are still a permanent resident of Canada, but whether you are being allowed to enter into Canada as permanent resident or no, again, one more time, that is why we are applying for a permanent residency travel document. So generally, obviously, I cannot comment without looking into analyzing the specific circumstances. Generally, my suggestion is avoid those high legal expenses of going to the Federal Court of Canada, hiring an expensive immigration lawyer, and then coming for the attendance, like a virtual attendance and all those things. It's a very time-taking, mentally stressing process, in my opinion. You could very well apply for a permanent residency travel document, make a strong application. This is not a simple online application, if you will. Yes, sure, there are limitations when it comes to document uploads and everything, so you cannot really upload anything and everything that you would like. It has to be meaningful, it has to be in sync, but at the same time, if you are able to make a strong PRTD application at this point in time in 2023, keeping the current overall socioeconomic situation that Canada is going through, more often than not, it's possibility that your application for PRTD will be approved. So if you are not living in Canada, yet you were once a PR and that you have not abided by your residency obligation due to whatever circumstances, if you need professional assistance, please come for a consultation, book through the website. That is your very first step. I need to review your situation, go through your documents in detail to be able to tell you what could be done. I represent my clients in the border as well. I represent my clients in the case of PRTD application as well. I also go to the Immigration Refugee Board for my clients for their appeal. Having said that, all these processes have their respective expenses, and I generally do not suggest my clients to just unnecessarily spend more money if a PRTD application, which is the lowest amongst all, will be as helpful. But at the same time, it's a very, very case specific situation. But if either of these is approached correctly, particularly PRTD, you would still, and obviously along with any of your family member who were also PR along with you, would be given back the permanent residency travel, would be given back the permanent residency status, and you can apply for a PR card after you come to Canada with the help of PRTD. So I hope this gives you an idea. If you need my professional assistance, hop onto the website, nuvonation.ca, book a relevant professional consultation, and we'll be more than happy to have a case-specific discussion with you. Hope this helps. See you guys in the next one. Bye now. Cheers.